driving to the locations. The first set is the Mount Si Motel, which is that building right there. It was in Fire Walk With Me. They called it the Blue Diamond in the script, and they never said what it was in the actual movie. But it was a red diamond. I don't know why in the script it was blue, but they decided to make it red. So that's these two first photos, and just so you guys could pass them along. And then the next set is photos of the Double R. In this first section of the tour, there's a lot more driving, and at the end, there's a lot more locations. So I might talk about things and just ask questions to fill time. So one of the screenshots of the Double R is from Fire Walk With Me, which was filmed 2 years later. It was filmed in '91, and the pilot was filmed in '89. The locations that we're going to be seeing here were only really filmed during the pilot and during Fire Walk With Me. And everything else was filmed on sets in LA. They called it Studio City. But just the way that they edit it together, they show an establishing shot of, an exterior that they filmed back in '89, and then they cut to inside a studio. So that's how that worked. The only exterior location, or the only most famous one, is that they swapped Leo Johnson's house. Leo Johnson's house in the pilot with his truck in front was different than in the series because they had to do a lot of exteriors during the series for that. And so that was in LA, and the gazebo scene with Maddie, that was in LA. So there's some exterior stuff that was in LA, but the iconic shots are all in this area. Okay, so I don't really have a script, I just sort of talk for 3 hours. Across from the Double R Diner, we'll see as we drive by. We're not actually stopping there because hopefully you guys have all been there, and if you haven't, you have to. I mean, it should be a requirement. Across from that, there's just this gray building, which I'll point out when we come up to it. That was where they filmed. They used that mostly for storage while they were filming in '89, and also they filmed the Bobby barking scene, the jail scene, where they bring in James and he barks. They filmed that up there. I've never been up in that building.
There you go.
So I'll point that out as we drive by. The Double R Diner, all they did is they had a neon sign that they basically just propped it up above the cafe sign that's over here at Tweeds. During the series, it was actually called the Marti Diner, and actually the woman who owned it at the time, Pat Coakwell, still has the Mar that was inside the blue oval that's on the big T. So now the blue oval has been switched to say Tweeds, but before it said Mar. And I think the reason why it was called the Marti was it was like a combination of parts of two people's last names that owned it at the time. I don't remember what their last names were. Things you will not be seeing on the tour, unfortunately, because they're too far away. The log location where Laura's body washes up on the beach, that was filmed on, it's off Bainbridge Island. It's in Polesville, and that's, if you go to Seattle, it takes a full day, basically, just getting over there. And so that was that location, obviously the Martel home, because that's where Pete's walking out of his house. The interiors of that location, which it's called the Kiana Lodge, and there's directions to get there in your packets. The interior of that was the Great Northern. So the exterior was the Martel home, and the interior was the Great Northern. But there was some interiors. The kitchen, Martel kitchen, was there obviously, and the scene where in the pilot, where Catherine looks out at Kermit, it's near the end, and she says, "Oh, he's here," because the sheriff is visiting, or Josie. He's visiting Josie. So that scene, which was an interior, was also the Martel. Also, that's where the bird on the branch was filmed, and in the opening credits. Yep, keep going straight. So we're coming up to Tweeds right here on the driver's side. I'll say driver's side and passenger side, just because I want to say right. So this building up here on the driver's side across, that's where they filmed the jail scene. Also, these railroad tracks here were where this would look good on your wall. The tree moms come up and give Laura the photo in Fire Walk With Me. So they walked from the railroad tracks this way and met her in the parking lot. Also in the pilot, you can see this building here on the passenger side that has open. It said antiques right at the top. You just catch a glimpse of that at one point when Heidi the waitress comes in during the pilot.
Oh, yeah.
So that's that. Tweeds Cafe. when they filmed originally, it didn't have, obviously, the home of Twin Peaks Cherry Pie, which is around it's not on the side you see right here, but it's right around the corner. But during Fire Walk With Me, if you watch at one point in that scene where the Tremons say this would look good on your wall, right to the left, this side of Laura's head, you can see an edge of a yellow sign, and the yellow sign used to say home of Twin Peaks Cherry Pie. So between filming the pilot and filming Fire Walk With Me, they put that sign up.
That's funny.
But you don't see, only because I know that's what that sign said. You know, it doesn't say home of Twin Peaks Cherry Pie. You don't see it. So that's most of those locations outside. Oh, also inside the Double R, in the screenshot, you'll see the diamond, the neon diamond that's up on the ceiling. They still have a diamond, neon diamond up on the ceiling, but in like 1999, there was a fire, and it was mostly in the kitchen, but they remodeled the whole place after that, and then they changed owners. So Pat Coqua, who used to own it, it was Kyle Tweed bought it, and he put all these Tweety birds up, and for several years, there was all these Tweety birds all up around, because his wife likes Tweety birds, and his last name was Tweed, but it's more like Tweed coat. That's how it's spelled, but they can't hang up a lot of Tweed coats, that would be weird. But they got rid of all the Tweety birds this year. There's 2 of them still there, but they're not. They were literally around the whole perimeter of the ceiling in the place, and now they're just going with a train theme, which I think is a lot more elegant for the place. And also with the Tweety birds, they had like guitars on the wall, and it was more of like a 50s diner, like a rock and roll diner. But they've changed that now since then. And if you go there, make sure you go back towards the bathrooms. There's a whole wall of Twin Peaks stuff. There's photos. It even mentions like once March 24th, 1991, because they were filming Fire Walk With Me. So there's some really interesting information back there. And there's also newspaper clippings about the fire. And if any of you have the Star Pics, no, not the Star Pics. There was a series of phone cards that came out, and they're actually up in the back at that place. They were just paid phone cards in England. I think it was England. There's a picture of the back mural. If you go to Tweeds, make sure you go around the back. There's a mural of the Twin Peaks opening shot. That back mural was awesome back before the fire in 1999. But it was like picture perfect. It looked exactly like it. But then when it burned, it got all damaged, and someone repainted it. And now it's like brown and blue. It's not as photorealistic as it used to be. And you can look for those phone cards, and in the phone card, it has the old way. I liked it a lot better. So yeah, the diamond is still there on the ceiling, so I like that. But they've moved the counter way back. This used to be right near the front door, but now the counter's pushed back and there's seating there. There's 2 long benches of seats. So yeah, they filmed the pilot and Fire Walk With Me in the diner, but for the series it was just a big set. So you'll notice some of the stuff changes, like locations of the jukebox, and there's a cigarette machine that shows up, and the payphones. Oh yeah, they're not there, but they were in the studio set. Heidi, the waitress, she actually lives sort of in the area in Washington. Sometimes she stops by the celebrity dinner that we have later tonight, but she won't be coming today. Outside Motel, just a little interesting fact about that. The movie The Vanishing, starring Kiefer Sutherland, Sandra Bullock, and Jeff Bridges, was also filmed there. Twin Peaks was the Laura and Ronette on the bed. That's room 6. The Vanishing is like room 7. It's the one right next door. And it also there's a shell station sort of behind Tweeds a little bit. That was where he loses Sandra Bullock in the film. So you see some Twin Peaks locations there. And actually, that's how Kiefer Sutherland got the role in Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me, because he was here filming The Vanishing. So he was in the area already, and it just worked out, so he became Sam Stanley. The Vanishing. Oh, it might be. I don't know. It's a remake of a French movie? Okay. I didn't know that. So we're going to be going by the Snoqualmie Casino, which... Oh, we did? No, we're going to go under now. Wait, we were by the casino already? Okay. So, screenshots. I'm going to pass out 3. 2 of them are a panning shot of James brooding over the, with the necklace and stuff. If you look at this side, there's a tree. I'm pointing that out because that's the same tree that's on the left side of the picnic video. You can compare them. So they were both filmed in the same location, and that's where we're going first.
Sweet.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I saw the but that's fine. Yeah, we keep going straight, and right before to get on 90 is we're gonna go left underneath the bridge. I've never actually been to the casino, but I hear they have karaoke with a live band playing the music backing you. Or they used to in previous years. I've never been there, and they've got these grand stadium seating stuff there and an outdoor stage. Looks pretty nice. I just never really have gone there. No time to gamble. I'm not quite sure how much we're going to be able to see of the mountain today with the coverage, but it's a great lookout spot. They've really, in terms of those screenshots, they've remodeled the whole area since then. It used to be a winery, and I think the winery burned down. I'm not positive on that, but in the last probably 2 or 3 years, they've just re-landscaped the whole area, and trees have grown up since the screenshots anyway, so it's hard to get the exact camera angle, but I'll show you roughly where it is. And actually, you can't quite see it in those shots, but the mill is actually in those shots. It's one of the open areas between the trees. Like near where that tree is on the left, there's some open brown spaces. The mill is right there, and you'll see it once we get up there. Oh, you might be able to see it, I don't know. But I have seen it in the past.
Thank you.
And if you just stay on this road, it goes into a turnaround up at the top. Like a loop that the bus can turn. Also, there's going to be bathrooms here. So if anyone needs to go, the next bathroom stop isn't for a little while, so you should probably do that here. And there's the covered area that's up sort of at the top of the hill. There's, if you look at it, there's a map of all the mountains that you, on a clear day, could see. And I actually always forget, there's Mount Si, but there's the second peak, and I never know the name of it. I always look on that to remind myself what it is. I think it says the elevation of all of them too, which is cool. So the bathrooms are this smaller building, covered building, and up there in the taller one with the weird roof, that's where the drawing is. And that's also near where the camera was sitting. So we'll get out and either covered it up, or they might not have whited the letters, so it wasn't as easy to read. Because I thought I could see it in the iTunes, the HD. I thought I could see that it said Preston Mill, and it was just carved in. Versus now it's painted in white, and it says Preston Mill. It's also interesting to note that in the series, they needed to film like 1 or 2 exterior scenes of Big Ed's gas farm, and wherever they did it, there's this huge mountain in the background that's right behind Big Ed's, and it's sort of off. You're like, wait, that's not in the. It's just another disconnect between pilot and actual series. Down a little bit, there's going to be a casino on the left. Someone posted on Facebook saying, the Seattle Times said that Ray Wise is coming. What's up with that? And I said, I think they were just confused about the stars in the movie and who's actually attending. And people were like, yeah, okay, because I was going to say that would be crazy. So I was like,
I ran into him in the hotel, and I saw Cheryl Lee, and so I went and pretended like I was getting coffee. She was in the little library area, and then I walked in, and all of a sudden he was there, and I acted like an absolute idiot. I mean, an absolute idiot. I was like, you're the surprise! I'm so excited. Thanks for coming. But he was so nice. He shook my hand. He was happy to be there.
Yeah, they were sort of nervous because this is the first festival that they've attended. You know, they were here at the Fire Walk with Me premiere, which was in '92, and that was a festival sort of, but it was a studio-sponsored event. It wasn't a fan festival.
Right.
And so this is their first time at this, and they were both sort of. They took some persuading because they don't know.
Yeah.
And I think after last night, they felt a lot better about what it was going to be like. Because, like, when Lenny Von Dolan was leaving, he's like, there is so much love in that room. And I'm like, yeah, it's like a big family.
And he looks amazing.
Yeah. And Ray Wise, did he age?
Oh my God.
It's been 20 years. On the special features for the Dual Spires psych episode, they had a featurette on just filming that, and they were interviewing the actors from Twin Peaks. And Lenny said to him, he's like, man, you look great. And he goes, well, I made a deal with the devil. Because he was in Reaper and played the devil. But yeah, it's so true. And he was just in X-Men First Class. If any of you saw that, he played the Secretary of State. So he's like at the big round table and they decide to go to war with the mutants or whatever. Yeah, that was really exciting. Amanda and I were both like, we're getting Ray Wise. Can you fucking believe it? What? Oh, sorry.
In case she doesn't know all the words.
It's an expression. So this is again a large distance until the Hurley home. And if any of you have the map, these are all on it that we're going today. So I just talk about things like what do locals think of Twin Peaks. He was actually really nice. A lot of them don't know of Twin Peaks. They just totally, the people that live in the location that's the exterior of the Palmer House in the series, which is up in Monroe, and that's not on the tour, I should have mentioned. The Laura House exterior and interior from the series and Fire Walk with Me. There's two different exteriors, but that's not on the tour because it's like an hour and a half to 2 hours north. And that's also in Everett is one of those Laura Palmer houses, and the Hayward house is near there too. So those two are not on the tour, other than the location with the law. But we have a lot to fill the 3 hours, trust me. So locals, what do they think of it? A lot of them don't know about it. I usually talk at the Moose Lodge with people, the locals, and some of them are really nice about it, and some of them are like, oh, you know, they came into town and that day, this one woman just says, David Lynch thinks we're all idiots, and I'm like, wow, like, how did you even interact with them that much, you know? But
Yeah, exactly.
whatever. Mostly they either don't know it or they have a fondness for it because they're like, yeah, there's a little trivia fondness of our towns we're on. So the Roadhouse is the next location, and the last screenshot is of the Book House. In the series, they're right beside each other because there are a few panning shots. And late, I think it's episode 24, you see both of them in one shot and a lightning bolt happens. 24 to 20, it's one of the later episodes. And you don't actually see the neon sign clearly because if you were ever watching it on DVD, you didn't actually know that said the Book House, the neon sign on it, until later in the series. In the 20s, the episodes in the 20s, it finally showed a close-up of that neon, the Book House sign. But in the screenshots, you can still see it. You could figure it out.
What they use for the interiors for that, for the Book House?
For the Book House,
I know it's in California somewhere. I was just curious what it was.
The only time they go into the Book House is when they're the Jacques Renault or Bernard Renault scene where they're interrogating him, and also when Harry is drunk and
Right.
Josie thing, and that was in LA. The interior of the Roadhouse was a bar in Seattle that's now owned by a university. It's used. The stage is used for performances and stuff. Also, between this. Oh, were you? Yeah, I've never actually been there. I've driven by it. I'm like, oh, there it is. But
boards.
Really?
We didn't see it on that game.
Yeah.
But I was able to get something just through the window.
Yeah, that's cool. Did it have the what's that called? Stained glass above? Did you see the stained glass above the door? Actually, I guess that's inside. It's inside the second door. The book house. So there's the bang bang sign, and in the series, it actually does like bang, 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 bang. You know, like that's where the words are, and the guns here. And in Fire Walk with Me, it just goes bang, 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 and that's because it broke between the filming, so they rebuilt
Nice.
it, and they just didn't pay attention to the timing or something. So yeah, it was, in the series it goes 1 2 1 2, and the other one just goes bam. The Roadhouse used to be called the Colonial Inn, and it was used. The upstairs is really the inn, and then the downstairs is the restaurant. But it was closed for many years, just so we'd always just. It hadn't been painted yet, but I think it was probably 2 or 3 years ago. Some people bought it. They renamed it the Fall City Roadhouse, which is cool because now it says Roadhouse in the title, and they painted it though. But it's really nice. I ate there every year. We go and eat there. We have a sort of a team meeting before the fest and run down what everyone's supposed to be doing. And I've never had a bad meal there. And also some festival attendees stay at the Fall City Inn, which is the inn part. Fall City Inn and Fall City Roadhouse. And the interiors of that were not used. And the door that they go in all the time in the pilot, that it's, you know, Donna goes in there, Bobby, that door isn't used. And as far as I know, when it was the Colonial Inn and then it was shut down, obviously it wasn't used. And then now they just don't use that door. That's just a side door. And it's sort of the back of the whole place anyway. Because you'll see there's 2 different entryways that are the main ones. But I think they didn't want to use those because it said, you know, the Colonial Inn. So they shot it from a weird angle in a parking lot. Also in the screenshots, there's a telephone pole that's on the left of the pictures of the Roadhouse. That's, I'll point it out. It looks like it's a tree, but the tree is just overgrown with ivy, and it's made, it looks like a tree, but it's just a single telephone pole with the